YouTube is ready.
Live on TV.
All right. Yep. Okay. Hello, welcome to the Litchfield, New Hampshire Recreation Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. We'll start off by doing a call to order, a roll call of members in attendance. Vice Chair Andy Ruggles. Here. Secretary Peter Ames.
Here.
Member Mike Boshi. I do not see Mike online. Member Chris Burns notified us that he would be out this evening. We have member Andy Collins and Steve Weber, Selectman's Rep.
Here.
My name is Steve Gannon and I am the chair. We have a quorum with 5. All right. Consideration of meeting minutes from previous meetings. I believe we only have one to accept, date of May 11th, 2021. Has everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes? You have. Any changes, edits? No? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote to accept.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the meeting.
Thank you. May 11th.
I will second.
All right, so we'll start off with, okay, Mike's here. Awesome. We'll start off with Mr. Ruggles. Mr. Ames.
Aye.
Mr. Boshi, we are accepting the meeting minutes for May 11th.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Collins.
Abstain.
Mr. Weber.
Abstain.
And I am also an aye, so that would be what, 402? Public input. I believe we have Mr. Ryan Lane, who would like to give us a field update.
Evening all, thanks for having me. We,
Evening, Ryan.
You're welcome. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, you're good.
We've settled into a pretty good routine the last few weeks with mowing, keeping an eye on irrigation, adjusting irrigation relative to the weather. I'll elaborate that a little bit as we move forward. We have been mowing the fields at about 2.5 inches, which is provided some real good playing conditions. But in light of recent weather, namely really low relative humidity, high temperatures, significant lack of natural rainfall, we've elected to bump those heights up 1/4 inch to 2 3/4. And the benefits of that are just increased turf health. That 1/4 inch doesn't sound like much, but makes a significant impact on root structure and plant's ability to sustain itself during these drought conditions. That said, we do find ourselves again in a drought, exacerbated by the fact that last year's drought really didn't kick off until June, and we were in a surplus situation as far as weather and moisture. Moisture as a benefit of that weather. Whereas this year, coming into the spring, we hadn't really recovered from that. And so we find ourselves, and here it is the end of May, but field conditions are starting to mirror those of late June and early July. Now, the knee-jerk reaction is just keep watering, water more. We have irrigation. What's the problem? This was actually brought up at your December 8th meeting, 2020. And just to elaborate on that, we can only throw so much water in one evening. We can't water during the day because it conflicts with recreational activities. And in addition, ideally, you should be watering at night, because what you want to have happen is you want your water to shut off prior to or at sunset. because you want your leaf blades to dry out as quickly as possible, and that's going to reduce your incidence of disease. And so we try to target a start time of around 9 p.m. and an end time of around 7 a.m. Therefore, it doesn't conflict with maintenance practices either. So 3 fields, Brickyard, Jets Lane, and excuse me, Corning, we've only got anywhere from 11 to 15 zones, and all 3 of those systems have excellent overlap and very good output. And so it's possible to run highly extended water times in these drought conditions and kind of counteract what's going on. Fields like Dara and Sawmill, where you have 27 plus zones, up to 32 zones, what we call the water time window, that 9 to 7 period, sounds like a long period of time, 10 hours. And when you're trying to run each zone upwards of 20 to 30 minutes, it adds up quick. So counter to what people assume, we can only get so much water down. And in addition to that, you know, if you just hit your Google button and do rainwater versus, you know, irrigation water, you're going to find that there's no replacement for rain. And, you know, we were up against this last year, and I felt we did a pretty good job of combating it. But you know, this isn't all doom and gloom. It's just a little bit of science behind what we have going on. Rainwater is 100% pure. There's no minerals. There's no better source of water. And when there's a huge lack of it and you're reliant upon irrigation water, irrigation water can be heavy in mineral content, salts. What happens is it creates a barrier at the surface. And you'll see sometimes, I mean, and I can show this in a field trial where we can run a zone for a half an hour and then take a knife and cut into that soil. And you're going to find less than 1 centimeter down, it's like talcum powder. And that's what we call localized dry spot in the industry. You can Google that as well if you're interested. And localized dry spot, essentially the soil particles get this waxy surface upon them that just, they don't allow water to penetrate. So if you're seeing some hot spots out there and what looks like drought conditions, understand that we are on top of it and we are watering as much as possible. But, you know, there's only so much we can do without some help from Mother Nature.
I hope if we were to I don't think that literally close our fields down until noon. That way you would have an extra of water.
Still with us, Ryan?
I couldn't hear a word of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Hold on.
Whoever, was that Andy speaking? Whoever was just speaking needs to be closer to the mic because we couldn't hear.
Can you hear me now?
That's a little bit better, yeah.
Move it even closer.
What number do you have?
1. Mic 1.
He's on. All right, gotcha.
You're on. Can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah, that's better.
Yes.
Ryan, would it help if we were to shut the fields down till like noon during the week? Would that give you an extra, you know, several hours a day to get extra water on the fields?
Yeah, I mean, every little bit helps. You know, if I can run, like I said, ideally we don't want to be watering into the morning hours and having the turf itself holding that moisture well into the morning. But you know, I can adjust that accordingly as well. You know, in periods of high humidity, you want those turf blades to dry out right away, or you're going to see red thread cropping up once the overnight temps are above 80, 85 degrees. And, you know, and essentially when it's uncomfortable to sleep at night, when the window's open, your turf is feeling it too. But in these conditions with the really low relative humidity, you know, winds, we've had sustained winds, it certainly would help to continue watering into the morning. You know, if I can get on Sawmill and Dara you know, 25, 30, 35 minutes a zone, it's certainly going to help.
Now, the only concern I would have is now that we're in school, it's not a concern, but once the school is out, what is the earliest that the softball, soccer, and baseball are typically on the fields? Is it 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning? What do you?
Our season will be over a week after school gets out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're done June 29th, 26th.
Okay. How
Yeah,
about
and youth soccer is done the Father's Day weekend. So after that, I mean, there may be an occasional camp over the summer that is still up in the air as to when it might be, but soccer would approach the rec commission and discuss those dates because they need to have those dates cleared with Ryan as well because there need to be kids down there during the day. But besides those possible 1 or 2 weeks, there wouldn't be anything scheduled during the morning ever.
Yeah, and softball's the same. They're done on the 26th. If they do travel times, and most of the practices will be at night,
right?
because parents do it. So the majority of the fields, I think, are open in the morning. You know, no one's using them.
All right. That was my only concern. I'm glad that that was covered. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, if you need to adjust the zones and run it earlier or later into the morning, what we need to do to keep the grounds healthy. Can the talent or dara pump and water table withstand that amount of consumption? The rest are on town water, right? No, they have their own private wells.
Who else? Yep.
And you
The
said
rest
those
of them
could
are
pump
on.
out. Go ahead.
The rest of them are on private wells. Sawmill, Brickyard, Jeff Lane are on artesian wells. They make plenty of water. Corning Road fields, we've never had an issue down there. That field tends to stay wet and has a very good soil profile as well, which helps. Very loamy conditions. Dara, it's something that I will keep an eye on, monitor. You know, we've always tried to hold a high level of environmental stewardship with water use and use only what we need. You know, that's just inherent from the golf course background. But when the fields are getting heavy use and high traffic and in these conditions, you know, we do all we can.
Andy, isn't Dara under a water restriction from the state? If I remember correctly.
Technically, yes. I know that's why there's a meter on there. I don't think they checked it last year. But the state is supposed to be coming and monitoring that, and we're only supposed to use, and Kevin Lynch was sort of monitoring all that with the amount of water we were allowed to use on a weekly basis. So we may want to check with him. And again, I don't think the state checked on it last year, but we don't want to get dinged by it if they do.
That's
I'll reach out.
if I could
I'll reach
get
out to
that
Kevin
weekly
Lynch.
number, monthly number, that will allow me to design backwards from the allotted, whether it's cubic feet or gallons per minute, what have you, and make adjustments to the irrigation system to ensure that we are maximizing the efficiency of every allotted gallon.
Yeah, it was a weekly allotment of how much water. It wasn't a gallons per minute or anything. It was, and I don't remember the exact number. Kevin Lynch pretty much dealt with them and kept it in check. But again, I don't know if maybe they dropped that restriction, but nobody came by to check it last year. So I don't know if the state was just over their heads and getting everything else taken care of. But
All right, I'll reach out to Kevin Lynch to figure out what he has for numbers and locate the gauge. And we will definitely get back to you on where we stand and what the numbers are, and then you can figure out your plan going forward.
Excellent. I appreciate that.
I went down right before the meeting and actually took a look at Darren. I think the fields are looking good. I can see, even from my own yard that things are warming up and the grass is getting, not as green as it would be or I guess with all the consumption, you know, if we were able to give it all the consumption it needed. But I think the fields look really good all in all.
Thank you.
There's nothing I can do.
Yeah, within a week.
Yeah, it was quick. It hasn't rained in 2 weeks, so. Well, thanks for the update, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you'd like to discuss with us, Ryan?
Not at all. We are trying to keep it short tonight. I felt like I was long-winded as it was. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your time, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
All
Have a good
right.
night.
Moving on to more public input. We have Mr. Jason Combs in the room with us tonight, and I assume you want to talk about basketball.
I do. Yeah, so I was just coming in to request the courts in Town Hall again for our summer league. So I printed up the sheets if for those who aren't familiar with it. Yeah, sure.
Inside talent, or are you looking at the courts outside?
Well, we weather permitting, we're always outside, but if it rains, then we move inside.
Okay.
So that's why I request talent in addition to the outdoor courts. Right. It gets hot in there, but you know, we suffer through if we have to. It's such a tight window to cancel games and try to reschedule them. It's very convenient to have that option.
How many players and people do you think will be in talent hall at a time?
At a time, well, usually there's about 10 to 12 kids per team. And last year we didn't let any parents in because of COVID.
All right.
So if we did go inside, it was only players only.
Okay.
And then we socially distanced them by, you know, we spread them out.
Right.
Well, the two teams playing each other. Yeah, and a couple, well, there's no coaches. The kids coach themselves. So, and then I kind of supervise. And so we have two refs, myself, a scorekeeper, and then whoever is there for kids. And then they all have to clear out before the next group came in. That's how we did it last year.
Right.
I don't know if-
We're still in the initial phases of discussing on how we're gonna reopen talent.
Mhm.
We are all definitely in agreement that we should. Last week, we discussed some possibilities. Obviously, our concerns would be, one would be sanitizing the bathrooms, and then two is the lack of ventilation in the facility.
Mhm.
I believe the fire chief said that it could hold up to what, 100 people or more? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was like 187 at 6 foot distance is what
At
it came
6
back.
foot.
Yeah.
And I think we,
Yeah, that's what it is. Basically pinpoint all the way through.
yeah, I think that's what we agreed upon last week. We'll try to limit it to 50.
Oh, we'd be well under that. Yeah, we even with the high school kids, the parents kind of, when we had the younger kids, they stayed because they had to give them rides home. But with the
Right.
older kids, they kind of let them be. I think we only used inside once last year, if I remember correctly. I think the weather played pretty well, so we only had to go in once. And we put signs up that said no parents allowed, that sort of thing.
This is Sundays and Wednesdays.
Sundays and Wednesdays, yep. I have the form, I filled it out.
Now, the EMT has already said they're okay with use of town hall as long as we have some place and some protocols in place, right?
Correct. We, the EMT and the Board of Selectmen lifted the restriction and we put it in the hands of the rec.
Okay.
And last year, so I took the temperature of every player before they got on the court, before they were permitted to play. And we sanitized. So, I mean, we can do that again this year if that's something we feel like we need to.
Thoughts?
You utilized Talent Hall last year when it was closed?
We did one game last year.
Oh, because we had closed Talent Hall to any activities.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe it was the year before.
Maybe it was the year before. It all blends in.
Well, I think by July 11th, we should definitely have it open and protocols in place. So I don't think we're that far off from figuring out the logistics of it. It's really just the cleaning schedule.
Sure. And again, that's only, I mean, I guess we could cancel it if we had to, like that, if it rains. But it's just very convenient having that option to move slide indoors.
Yeah, I'm not thinking it.
Mhm.
Yeah, we wanted to fall back to universal best practices that the state put out and having cleaning supplies there and so forth.
We did all that last year. I had cleaning supplies. We washed the ball as much as we could. We had sanitize every time the kids came off, they sanitized their hands. So we supplied all that. And then we, kept them separated when they were on the benches. We put them 6 feet apart, the chairs. So it worked pretty well. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little nerve wracking last year, because I'm like, I didn't want to be the super spreader of Litchfield. But knock on wood, no one got sick that I know of. So it worked out well.
What is the age range?
So when I first started, we did 8th grade to 12th grade or 13th grade, because we let the graduating seniors play if they want to. And then 2 years ago, we did 2 leagues, but honestly, it was just too much. I don't have the time to run 2 leagues. So then last year we did just do high school, and then a couple of the 8th graders that I knew and was comfortable with, and their parents expressed interest, I let them play. But I'm going to open it back up to 8th grade and above. So whatever, if you're going into 8th grade, you can play.
Okay.
So we had 5 teams last year, so ideally I'd like to have 6, just make it even, make it easier to schedule. So by having a few extra kids, it might work out. And I know a lot of kids, there was quite a few that did not play last year due to COVID. I think that probably will come back.
Yeah, it was some nerve-wracking times.
Yeah, it certainly was. Yeah, I didn't even think we were going to be able to play, and then Andy told me, where it was a go. So we kind of put it together last minute, but we did it.
So what is the will of the board? What are your thoughts? We need to obviously discuss and put some guidance in place first.
Steve, do we have the protocols that the Boy Scouts used? Did they supply that to us? Because we could probably use something like that as a good
They
guideline.
sent it in once, another meeting to us, right?
Yeah.
They sent us in all the protocols that they were gonna use for their winter event and then for the Pinewood Derby.
I mean, the big thing I think that we need to do, because the one thing that's different is this basketball league is, at least it has been, a committee of ours. It's not its own entity. It's not like a different group coming in and doing it. So, one of the things I think we required last year, Jason, was a COVID waiver.
Yep.
So
we had
any
a special
participants-
COVID waiver. I didn't print that out, but Andy's correct. We had a COVID waiver, and like I said, and then we took protocols of taking the temperatures and made sure everybody. I was the sanitizer police, making sure everybody was clean.
So Andy, this falls under insurance and stuff.
Andy, you need to get closer to the mic again. We're losing you still.
Hold that right up to your mouth. Chew on it.
So, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, Andy. So this falls under our insurance and stuff. Like it's officially part of the rec.
Yes, it's a rec program. It's kind of like Christmas in Litchfield.
So do one of us has to be in attendance for this?
No, Jason is a volunteer and filled out the volunteer form. So he's a volunteer. So he's basically a committee member of the Litchfield Rec Commission. So he's not a commission member, but he's a committee member.
Okay, makes sense. I just wasn't sure.
Sure.
So,
You know what I mean? Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope.
I think, like, again, the use of Talon Hall is up in the air, but the use of the basketball courts should be a straight ahead, same as scheduled. And then, we could put it, subject to whatever rules are, the town hall usage, rules of town hall usage will be determined at a later time and will be followed by basketball. It's one of those things where if we open up if talent is open and then we have restrictions, then it can be used at those times. And if it's not open, then if it rains, basketball has to be canceled.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Well, we just hope it rains too. Not for you, Jason, but for the
Yeah.
fields.
Yes.
What about purchasing? I mean, one of the things that we've talked about in the past, just because it's so hot in there, is some more of the commercial, industrial type fans. You know, if we get a couple of big suckers and put it up on the stage, we can get some pretty decent air circulation going through there and get, open up the front doors and the back doors. We could create some decent ventilation in there to make things a little safer.
Andy, do you know what the deal
Ceiling
is with the
fans.
giant fans on the ceiling? Like we tried to get those on once and they wouldn't even turn on.
I wasn't aware they didn't work. I mean, basically those are just there to save the roof. They're to try and keep the heat from in the wintertime and in the summer for the heat going up there. They don't want the roof to cook. So it's really not for the comfort of anybody in the hall. It's to keep the heat off of the roof.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, so everybody in agreement? Any more discussion on this topic? Should we make a motion?
Yeah, but I think we need to make a motion. So I'll make the motion to allow Litchfield summer basketball to play on the outdoor courts starting July 11th through August 15th. In the case of rain, possibly using the indoor courts once we have a final ruling and a
It would say
determination
use of town hall would be subject to guidelines when
set
available.
forth. Yeah, exactly.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Works
Yep.
for me.
Correct. Seconded by Mr. Peter Ames. Let's have a roll call vote. Mr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. Ames,
Aye.
Mr. Boshi,
Aye.
Mr. Collins,
Aye.
Mr. Weber.
Aye.
I am also an aye, so that would carry 6-0-0. Thank you, Jason. We will definitely stay in touch. And like I said, as we work out the guidelines for Talent Hall, we'll provide them to you and,
Perfect.
hopefully you have good weather for it and it'll work out the way you want. But
Yeah,
we're
it's
also-
generally it works out pretty well. So, but it's just always that one night you get the thunderstorms and so we got to pull the kids in. But if we have to send them home, we have to send them home. I'd rather miss 1 week than cancel the whole season. So, I'm whatever you guys need me to do, I'm on board with.
And Jason, are you still good with using some of the funds from that to spray? Because we did barrier spraying the last few years around the courts.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yep.
Just
Whatever
makes it more
take
comfortable for the
whatever we-
players. And
Yeah. I did have a question, Andy. Do you know if the pads, whatever happened to those? Did we lose those?
the
The goal pads?
On the
ones
outside,
from the
yes.
round poles, you mean?
Yeah.
I picked up remnants of those over the last, looks like somebody pulled them off the courts and
Okay.
shredded them.
Yeah, because I wouldn't mind. The year before we brought them back in every game, and I don't know whatever happened if
They
someone.
were different. I think they had to be different pads for these though, because they're different size poles.
Okay, so I didn't know if we could look into getting more of those.
Yeah, I thought they were up in the storage. We'll have to take a look.
Would that
Or
be-
maybe that's what happened. They moved them to storage, and I couldn't find them. I used to put them in the kitchen. So if I could just get access to those, just so I don't
Yeah, we'll definitely look.
get a high school kid running full speed into the pole is a little scary.
Yeah.
I did find some, like I said, on the outside courts that were, looked like they were torn off the pads. I don't know if those are the ones that you were looking for.
Yeah, we had them. I know we pretty religiously brought them in and out the year before, and I think they might have been there last year, but I don't remember. But I think one was exposed. So it's just something, if they happen to be available, I'd like to utilize them.
Do you still have access to talent? I don't think we do, right? I think it was all locked out.
Yeah, I don't think my code works anymore.
All right, I'll go in there and I'll look around.
Okay.
See if I could find them.
Perfect. We need this. Oh,
Oh,
no, this is actual request.
Oh, all right. You already have. All right.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your time, guys. Appreciate it. And then I'll be in touch, or you guys will be in touch about using it if it rains.
Perfect.
All right,
Good.
All right, thanks so much.
All right, any more public input? I don't see anyone else online. We do not have anyone else in the room with us, so we'll close public input. Facilities and field requests. First one will be Family Fun Day for, is it? Litchfield Baseball and Litchfield Girls Softball, use of Roy Memorial Park for a joint family fun day on Saturday, June 19th, from approximately 2 p.m. to about 10:30 p.m. This was brought to us by Mr. Weber. You want to tell us about it, and is it going to be open to the public and parking
Yep.
and et cetera?
So in years past, Litchfield's girls softball always had a family fun day, family fun night. They've done it in different ways. Of course, it didn't happen last year. With us trying to bring baseball and softball closer together, we thought it would be great to have a family fun day for both baseball and softball and open to the community. So we're asking to use Roy Memorial Park from about 2 to set up till about 10:30 at night. The different events will be, first of all, we're going to have vinyl night spinning tunes for us, dunk tanks, touch a truck. We're going to have the police come in. We're going to do different food stations. We're going to have field events, boys and girls, same age group, maybe a home run derby, a baseball game. We're going to try to do face painting, different things to that event. And we're going to cap the night off with a big movie, Sandlot or something like that on a big screen out in the back. Just trying to get the whole community out there with things that can do. It's going to be used as a fundraiser for both softball and for baseball. So we're going to split the proceeds and just see if we can do a fun event for the whole entire community.
Parking, I assume in the past, you've probably had the school as overflow.
Definitely. We're probably going to utilize the school more than anything. Because if we do have the fire apparatus in there for touch a truck, that's going to be taking up the spot that way. So we're going to push it down to down to the school and everybody walk down.
Yep, so there wouldn't be people parking along the side streets and all that.
Nope, none of that.
Okay.
And if we need to bring in more porta potties, because there's only one down there, we'll definitely do that at our cost and try to keep people out of Talent Hall using those facilities.
Alcohol, will you be serving alcohol? Do you need a LPD on duty?
There has been discussion about maybe having a bring your own booze type of thing, because especially when you're watching the movie at night, all the family sitting. So if we do that, I will work with the police department to make sure we have somebody on duty. And also, depending on the people we have, we may just want to have somebody there anyways.
Okay,
Because we don't know how many families will show up. I mean, if you look at it, baseball has 135 players. Softball, I think, has 54, 57. So right there, if you start getting, if you only get 50% of them there, you're still looking like you could easily have 100 people.
now, is that a requirement for dara if there's alcohol being served or consumed? Or is it just served that an officer has to be on duty?
In the past, if it was consumed within Talent Hall, I think that was the only place we really did it. We had to have a officer on duty.
No, so
We did that for comedy night a bunch of times.
anytime we've had alcohol, like we've never served alcohol.
Correct. It's always
that
been
was-
bring your own.
Anytime we've done a bring your own, there has to be an area, and there does have to be a police detail there. So there has to be a designated area for it not to leave, and only those over 21 are allowed in that designated area. At least that's how it's been done in the
Stage
past.
A lot of this. But we figured we'd get the request in, so it's not all for naught. So we figured we'd set up between 2 and 3, 2 and 4, and then kind of kick off then. Dusk at that time of year is about 8:30 at night. So that's why we said 10:30. If you play a movie, usually by 10:30, everybody would be gone.
And where will you have the screen on, like the pavilion or something?
We haven't decided yet. We do have one resident in town that has I think it's a 150-inch screen. That is a sheet he put around a PVC pipe.
Yep.
It's got a projector to run it. We have to work through the audio piece of that.
Yep.
Because right now you can't hear well out of the projector, but it does have Bluetooth capability. So we're thinking maybe tie the Bluetooth speakers into it. And if we do bring a system in like that, it'd be great to tie Vinyl Night back into that system. So we have better audio across the whole entire field.
Steve, if I could throw a suggestion out there, I know when we've done an event like that at Pinkerton, they split the cable and basically had they had 3 projectors running, at 3 different screens, all running the same thing. So, you know, if they're smaller, because I mean, that seems like a big screen, but when you get it out there in the field, it's going to look tiny.
Oh, it is, because I started thinking about 150 inches. It really wasn't that big. They do have the
No.
other ones that you can bring in, almost like the billboard ones on a trailer. They're the real big ones. But at that point, is it, worth the revenue we're gonna take in from it? Raffles and things to that extent. It might not be cost effective.
All right, and you still are going to provide us an official.
I am. I got tied up in a meeting till late today, so that's why I didn't send it on in. But I will close the loop tomorrow morning on the official request.
Now, I mean, technically, doesn't softball has use of the fields?
Correct. Softball is partnering with us on this. So all our
Right.
games that day will be done by, I believe it is 1 o'clock. So there's no other field utilization after that time.
But I mean, do we need to? Does there need to be a request put in unless there's the alcohol or something of that nature? Because basically, the expectation is softball would have been doing games and things that night. They have use of the fields, and you know, it's already been granted, correct?
Yeah, I don't know. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I don't know how that works because like softball never came. Is it just a yearly thing? We automatically grant like they just have it perpetually forever, or it's kind of a different subject, but like
Yeah, I'm under the impression now that all the different leagues should come in front of the board yearly and present their plan so that we know what they want to do, when they're going to be doing it, who's going to be on the
just
field.
roughly.
Roughly,
It doesn't
yeah.
have to be like set in stone, but
Right.
like our season generally runs from this to this. Just so we have some idea what's going on.
And this whole topic ties back into that master calendar we always keep talking about,
Right.
if we can get it all back into that.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like I'm not asking for like to the minute. Like
Right.
you were there till 4:45 instead of 4:30. I'm just thinking like general season lengths and stuff like that, just so we have a better idea. Because like for instance, we got like a few requests. I just saw one that we got like just before this meeting. In like again, I don't know if that field's open yet. I don't know if the season's over yet. I don't know when summer softball starts. It'd just have a nice idea, nice to have an idea when that stuff is. But
Yeah, we should be in the loop.
just a separate discussion.
I fully agree. I mean, they're on our field, so we should know what organizations are on the fields at what time.
Yeah.
Any more discussion on this?
That being said, I mean, this event definitely is a softball event, however, I do feel like it's not a standard softball event. It's not like games. So yeah, I would think they would have to get approval on this.
Approval or not, I would be sending in the form anyways. I just
Right.
like to keep it clean, close
Yeah.
the loop.
That way,
It's
yeah.
officially in there.
Yeah.
Because both our Litchfield rec teams, leagues, we don't have to worry about insurance and all that stuff.
Right.
Already covered.
File.
Just one question on the code protocols, it's so interesting, think about this type of event now versus what we were thinking about last fall when these type of things come up. I mean, I don't have any concerns at all. I'd say, the other thing with this type of event is you do have a lot of unvaccinated kids that are 12 years below. The other thing I would say is having been at a number of these in years past to just maximize the use of the field for social distancing. I think that's really the only thing that needs to be done outside.
And there is
but
plenty of
otherwise
space.
it's-
And there's 3 fields and
Exactly.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, since it's not going to town, I don't really see much else, so these are good things for sure.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even need access to town, right?
No, I mean, if we ever wanted to use it, be for restrooms, but if we brought in 2 more porta potties,
Yeah.
what's the big deal?
Yeah.
So we are looking for volunteers. If anybody's listening, they want to volunteer to run a couple stations, tables or whatever. The more
I
the,
think Steve should be on the dunk tank.
I was in it 2 years ago. Somehow got nominated in softball and I got in the dunk tank.
Anybody named Steve should be in the dunk tank.
I like it.
Oh, my name's George.
But I will say, we already have gotten the GMS principal to say he'd go in the dunk tank.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm working on the police chief, the fire chief and some other people. So We'll try to get different people like Mr. Ruggles into the dunk tank.
All right, is this something we should make a motion on now, or should we wait till we have more idea on?
No, I think we should make a
the
motion
motion?
now.
Yeah,
And, you know, obviously just get back to us on the alcohol thing and,
Definitely.
you know,
I think we're gonna have a call. Next call is Friday night for
Yeah.
planning, so we'll know.
yeah, I'm sure you will cover your bases.
I most certainly will.
All right. Do I have a motion on allowing Litchfield baseball and Litchfield girls softball to utilize Roy Memorial Park on June 19th from 2 p.m. to 10:30 p.m.?
so moved.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Andy Ruggles, seconded by Peter Ames. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll go with a roll call vote. Mr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. Ames,
Aye.
Mr. Boshi,
Aye.
Mr. Collins,
Aye.
Mr. Weber.
Since I'm the president of baseball, I sit on the board of softball, I will abstain.
And I am an aye, so motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1. All right.
Thank you. We appreciate that and hopefully everybody will be able to attend.
We don't have any more official field requests. We did have a couple emails that come in. One of them was from Mr. Justin Platt in regards to Litchfield track and field. My interpretation of this request was he wanted to utilize the track at CHS, and we do not have jurisdiction over that. I believe Mr. Ames responded to him. And have you heard anything back from him?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, no.
You were under the impression he was trying to utilize the track as well, right?
That's what yeah, if there's something that our fields can be useful for, then I think we consider it, but I did not hear.
The other one was a local resident requesting to use the pavilion for the birthday party. I informed her that the pavilion cannot be reserved. And she's going to be utilizing it in the middle of the day on like a Wednesday. So the fields are not going to be accessed, or there's not going to be any other sports running at that point in time. So I let her know, yeah, she could use the pavilion, and please clean up. Do not use the trash barrels. If you use the trash barrels, make sure everything gets dumped into the dumpsters.
This trash there is a huge issue right now.
Yes.
Backed up.
I picked up the big mess over by the softball concession stand, and then upon leaving last night, there's a barrel that's at the, the double gate that gives us access for bigger vehicles onto the field that's overflowing, and I had to get to the selectmen's meeting, so I didn't have a chance to loop back and get it
At Dara?
at Darien.
Just
I know Mr. Burns was gonna try to get to it before he left that evening. I didn't have a chance to touch base with him today.
last request came in. It wasn't an official request, right? No, it was just an inquiry.
We just had one come in. It was soccer field rental from Alwyn Hyder. Said, sent you an email 6 years ago about access to the soccer fields in Litchfield. I manage a men's 30 and up recreational soccer team playing in the NHSC Summer League. Would it be possible to get time in for one of the town's fields Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. and anytime on Sundays? ? We have team insurance that will cover general liability. We range in age from 30 to 60, and our opponents are much of the same. Summer League will run from the first week of June through late July. I spoke with my friend Kevin Reinert, and he advised that I reach out to you for this kind of request.
That kind of goes into renting out the fields and ties back into not having a calendar and knowing who's going to be on the fields at the time.
Like, you did indicate that soccer will be done by then, correct?
Yeah, soccer will be done by by Father's Day weekend. So, I mean, after Father's Day weekend, the field's open pretty much in terms of practice for like weeknights and weekends. I mean, as I said, summer soccer may come along, but summer soccer is traditionally Tuesday or Thursday. And it hasn't been dates haven't definitively been picked. So, I mean, Wednesdays, I'm assuming should be fine. I mean, past couple of years, we've gotten requests from flag football to use Sawmill for practices during the summer, but I haven't seen any of those yet. And usually they're pretty flexible in terms of what days, what areas on the field to use. So, I mean, I think that the field's available after that date. You know what I mean? Before that week, before Father's Day, it's going to be tough to find time there on Wednesdays or on Sundays, to be honest. But
Mid-June?
you know, starting what was the week of starting the 21st. You know, what I mean, it could be utilized. I mean, the only other piece of that is, and this is something you probably need to check. We need to check with soccer. Those fields aren't usually lined over the summer, or if they're lined, they're being, you know, it's spotty or they aren't necessarily done. So, if they need the fields lined, if they need all that stuff done, they're probably gonna have to approach soccer to, you know, have someone do them and pay them to do them. Because, you know, soccer, we pay someone to line the fields every week. It just makes it easier to get through things. And then paint, of course, is like, you know, whatever it is, $45 a case or something for 12 cans. So it's not exactly nothing.
Yeah, so we'd have to figure out, at this time, obviously, we're not gonna be able to approve this request because we do not have an official request, but also we're gonna have to come up with some kind of fee schedule. I'm believing, is she,
Not necessarily. I mean, we don't have a fee to use our fields at this time. I mean, it's either, it's a
Sorry,
Litchfield
no.
resident.
Yeah,
is she,
that's,
which one
They're
is it?
insured.
looks like they're on Pinecrest.
Yeah, I don't think that we could charge them for it at this point.
Well, it's an organized team. It's not a Litchfield thing.
Correct.
What was her date, did she say?
It said first week in June to
Oh.
late July. So obviously first week in June wouldn't work.
Now, she would not be able to access the fields until after Father's Day, as Mike said, so it'd be the last week of June, July.
I'd also I know that I remember talking to this guy a couple years or 6 years ago, and actually it was funny because I think that was also a major drought year, and I think that might be why that they came to us, because I think a lot of fields had shut down that year. I would just be wary, you know, when you're talking adults playing soccer, the wear and tear on a field is, I mean, we saw it when high schools play on those fields as opposed to kids, what it does. And if we're in drought conditions, we could really lose everything that happened to those fields. So I would say that I would suggest having the guy come to the meeting and discuss all our concerns and have them present and before we even discuss anything.
All right, so we will respond, ask her to fill out the form.
Him.
Have her,
Hyder is his name.
have
Yeah.
her, sorry, yep, and
Yeah.
have her come in, and meet with us.
Yeah.
Maybe at the next meeting.
All right, I can shoot that email back.
Works for you? Are you in agreement with that?
Yes.
New business. Timber harvest and parking lot. So we're all aware that, probably know most of this. They're gonna be coming to town to harvest parcels at the state forest. And they're gonna also be constructing a larger parking lot. They kind of let us know if, you know, if we had any input. I don't know how much input the Recreation Commission can really have.
My only thought to that is, you know, I don't know what they have designed, what they have planned, so it's kind of hard to give input to something there's no plan for it.
So the current parking lot is 30 by 65,
Okay.
and the expanded is approximately going to be 60 by 120.
So roughly doubling the size of it.
Yes.
Wait, they're saying it's 30 by 65, the current one at the corner of Pinecrest and Albuquerque?
Yes.
That's not very big when you put it's only about 3 cars, you know, a parking spot's, you know, 18 by, you know, 10 by 18 or 10 by 20.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 cars. So you're gonna be able to get 6 cars there now. So
That's good. That sounded smaller than what I thought it was, but yeah, I think it'd be good. That place has been crowded and particularly in the last couple of years, so on the road, so.
Especially when
that's
people
great.
just pull straight in.
Yeah.
Get like 2 cars in there, and nobody else can back up.
Not too sure what else information we can provide to them. From what I read, they're going to clean up essentially afterwards, try to level out some trails. You know, and
I think they were just looking to see if we had any concerns. I don't have any concerns. I think it's probably a net good thing for town as far as providing better access to the state forest, but.
I mean, they wrote, I've included a basic map that shows the current parking footprint and the approximate footprint of the planned expansion. The expansion area is currently marked with a yellow and black stripe flagging. I can shoot this for you guys. The guide people expansion will include, stumping, spreading gravel, and grading the area. A few signs will be installed to help guide people to the park in the most efficient way. The parking lot will maintain the same feel it currently has, just expanding to make it easier to park a few more cars there, keep cars off the road. A new kiosk will be built and a gate installed at the start of the trail, blocking unwanted motorized traffic, but providing access for management and emergency vehicles.
so I guess it's safe to say from the Recreation Commission, we have no real input and no concerns.
Now, this is a couple-year project from my understanding. That's correct, right? Or Steve? do you know?
Yeah, I believe,
It was possible, yeah, the intent is to kind of have it done within 1 year. However, it could possibly jump into a second year.
Okay.
That's kind of dependent, I believe, on how the organization that's gonna ultimately be getting the contract will take in doing it.
and the same holds true for the time frame. They do not have a definitive time frame just yet because they're still waiting for the contractor to come back.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Moving on, old business, trash. We need to come up with a trash collection strategy. We'd like to standardize on our trash collection at the 5 fields and select a vendor if possible. 3 fields have a concession stand. One's utilizing a 6-yard dump, dara, and the other 2, I believe, have 4 yards. Innisfield does not have any dumpster or trash. It's more of carry and carry out. And Sawmill has a couple barrels that the town has been collecting. I did contact a couple vendors. I have not heard back from them. I'm gonna ask them to go around. My thought is if we can get a 4-yard dumpster at the places that have concession stands, and then maybe a couple of large roll-around barrels that they could pick up, like almost industrial commercial size, at Innis and Sawmill, I think that'll would be good to utilize and cover us in that, in those 2 fields.
I'd recommend that we reach out to Dave Mellon from Solid Waste, since we already have an agreement to get rid of all the waste removal in town. He may be able to get us a good deal on dumpsters
Oh, really?
at a reduced rate, yeah. So I'd see if we can piggyback onto whatever he has going. If you want, I can take that action.
Be good to see if he has any input. I know there's a small person that started a company in Merrimack that I was gonna contact. I think compared to like large waste managements and, Penard's, I think a smaller business may be more apt to, if they have to walk a couple feet to get a trash barrel to bring it back to the truck and stuff like that.
Yeah. Because I think the 4-yard that we have at Corning costs about $220 every time we empty it.
Really? That's.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, I think Dave's gonna be able to get us a better price point.
Especially if we combine all of them together.
And especially with all the waste that comes out of the town. So I'll reach out to him and see what he can do for us.
He's gone. I was gonna ask him his input on, do we really need a 6-yard dump at Dara?
Well, we do if the barrels actually get emptied.
A 4 fills up pretty quick.
At 4 fills up really
It
quick.
does. And for baseball, we're on a will call at the one at Corning.
Yep.
But if we take care of all the barrels at Corning, do all the ones at Jeff Lane, I mean, within a few weeks, it's probably full.
Oh, so you have one dumpster, do you have a dumpster at both? Or-
We pay for one dumpster at Corning,
Oh, then you.
So one of us has to pick it up.
pick
at
up all the
Jeff Lane and
trash,
bring
load it
down.
up, bring it down, throw it in. And then we've padlocked that one because we have residents that decide to throw tires, paint cans, computer screens, baby mattresses and all
So
of the
would it
stuff.
be better to have a 4-yard at each place that has a concession stand? And will we need, still need I was at Dara today. Obviously, the dumpster is being utilized, but it's not there's cardboard, there's boxes, and it doesn't look like it's something, it's more home waste,
Yes.
nothing softball, baseball teams have contributed to.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to how much use the area gets. The reason we stayed with a will call is because we probably fill it up 2-3 times a year in the periods that we use Corning Field. And it's getting a little more utilization now because we have Jeff Lane online and we're using it more. So we, developing more trash from that standpoint. But this is the first time we've dumped it this year. So we'll probably do one more at the end of the season. So I think that's also going to be part of Dave's price point. It's going to be the frequency that we need it dumped.
Right.
If it's a will call, it's probably gonna be a different price than if it's a weekly dump.
Do you believe there's enough demand to have it dumped weekly?
No,
I don't
at least from a baseball standpoint, softball, the concession stand hasn't been open yet for softball. So I don't even know what the utilization that would be.
Right. All right, so let's, if you could speak to Dave Mellon,
I will.
get his input and see what we could do. Obviously, we'll have to work on the budgeting and all that kind of stuff to make sure that it's in our budget for all of it. So it would be something that we'd have to take on next year, I would assume.
Mhm.
Probably a little late to do it this year. Any more input on that, Mike or Andy, on trash pickup?
No, not really. No.
All right.
No, it's, I still think it's something that we have to, I don't know how, we've only really done it at Dara simply because of Talent Hall. The dumpster was not there for softball. It just happened to be that softball used the field. So we're going to be in for a big budget increase if we have to take care of dumpsters at every field.
Then the other big logistical part is who empties the barrels? Because you tend to get to the point people use them, and then they keep stuffing more and more. Then they place it next to the barrel.
Right.
And no one on a regular basis is going down there and just
That's the biggest problem.
pulling the liner out, throwing it in and relining it. And you sit there and look at it, and we did have solid waste used to help us out, but then they got reprimanded because the individual was using their own private truck to go do it. Our highway department is a highway department of 2. I mean, do they really have the bandwidth with 144 lane miles to be going around picking up trash everywhere? So we get into that whole thing now. Do we go back and look at solid waste? Can one of the part-time employees there use a town vehicle and go and do it? So I think we have to have more of a discussion of, what options do we have in front of us?
I would agree with that.
How does
And
that
the
work?
containers, I know that we got some nice containers at Sawmill when it first opened. Because if you just have regular barrels there, even if they're not overflowing, you're going to get critters in there and it's going to be all over the place.
Yeah, in baseball, we went to those dome lids that are very expensive, but it was for the same reason, rainwater would get in there. Someone would put the regular flat cover on, it would blow off.
Yeah.
So we went to the nice dome covers that have the spring back for them. You can buy 2 barrels for the price of 1 cover. I think we spent $600 in barrels, but it's really cut down on the amount of waste blown around the fields.
But then in those situations, you need to use liners because you're not lifting
You have
those
to
up.
use liners.
You have to use liners in all
You
of them.
have to use
Yeah,
liners.
and we actually riveted the cover, to a chain onto a fence because take the barrel, just please don't take the cover. Covers are so expensive. It's like, you don't want to be buying any more covers. I mean, we choked when we saw the bill of those, but it was the right thing to do for the fields. But then we do need someone. So the highway department does pick up all the trash barrels on the bike path in Albuquerque. They're the ones who take care of that right now.
So, so maybe it's something that, as you said, maybe Dave Mellon's group might be able to.
Yeah, I'll start the conversation with Dave Mellon from Solid Waste to see, what ideas he has. Because he used to be the individual who would go around and pick up sawmill, pick up everywhere.
Maybe it's something a summer intern can do. Sounds like fun.
It's a nasty job.
Oh, I don't think it'd be that bad if you stayed on top of it.
No, it's great when you stay on top of
really
it.
Not that bad. It's when we like the one that we did the other day that had literally not been done in 4 years, and it was disgusting.
Disgusting. And the one that I did the other night was almost equally as bad.
Yeah.
It had no liner and it was just nasty. It probably has been there for 14 months.
And honestly, now that it's done at Corning, I'm staying on top of it. That will never be.
That's what I am.
4
I'm doing the
years.
same thing at Jeff Lane now.
I would
Every
never
time
have
I'm there,
to
I'm
do
empty.
that
I
again.
don't care if they're a quarter full. I'm emptying them.
Great. Talent hall reopening, we actually had another discussion on this earlier. Some things we talked about, just to reiterate, is initial restriction of only 50 people. We need to come up with sanitation plan. It was brought up that we should come out with an outbreak and remediation plan, as well as we're talking with Jeff, a liability contract, or what do we call it, COVID waiver. Yeah, that would be something it would be nice to get talent hall opened again.
So let me ask this, like, how far are we really off at this point? Because I feel like there's so many, guidelines in place now that we can reference that
Right.
covers us on a lot of liability things I was concerned about. You referenced the universal best practices. I think that, goes to the heart of that. This is like a lot of places that are opening up are referencing that. So I'm very comfortable kind of that being our focused line for folks to say these are the expectations going in there. I think we can probably do a couple things that maybe we're going to be more conservative because we don't have the ability to clean it as frequently as, other points of business. So I think the biggest thing is like, what kind of sanitation schedule can we commit to as far as funding and getting staff being able to do that? I don't really like the idea of having people who use it be responsible for cleaning up. I just think that's not going to be practical. I think they may intend to, but I'd be much more comfortable if we had something in place. And even if there was a gap, or if there was a back-to-back of one organization using it on a Tuesday, another one using it on a Thursday, and we didn't have our sanitation schedule on Wednesday, I still feel like that would still be good enough if we know we can have something routinely once a week or twice a week, whatever it is. And we just put it out there as an expectation, like these are the sanitation schedules. If you're not comfortable with it, you can clean it before use and after use, that type of thing. But this is what we're able to commit to.
Or say this is our sanitation schedule, and then these are how many slots we have open because we need a certain amount of time in between usage.
Yeah.
But also the other thought is, do we even need to sanitize it if no one's utilizing it for, I don't know how long the virus can last on surfaces.
A day or 20
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So do we have to clean it if no one's going to be in it for 12 to 15 to 24 or more hours? Can't it just be typical bathroom cleaning?
The individual that does that cleaning now does have bandwidth to go back doing dara, and I'm sure he could be flexible based off of when we want it done. If we know we have somebody who's going to be there on a Tuesday, we can say, hey, can you go in Tuesday night or Wednesday and sanitize it? And then we know it's good until the next person goes to use it. Because I don't think we're going to have that high of a utilization this time of year. I think come September, October, I think you're going to see it starting to climb up again. Pickleball will start getting back inside, and they're the biggest user of it.
So should we just make it a standard that it's sanitized after every use? We're shooting at something that we don't know if we're going to hit because we don't know where it's going to be.
Correct.
6 months, and that's the tough part. Like I said, if no one's utilizing it for 24 hours, do we need to sanitize it between uses?
I mean, I think if you look at the universal best practice, it says employers should have sanitation material available for all employees. So they almost put it back to the employee to clean their own workstation where they've been.
Yeah.
But when your employees are kids.
Yeah, I know.
Excellent point.
Yes.
Wash your hands.
Petri dishes everywhere.
So what would you like to see, Mr. Ames? What's your thought on this? Where would you like to Where do you see us going?
Yeah, I guess I'd like get something routine on the books. If the individual has some flexibility to get back on schedule there, I think even just once a week to start would be good. I think you're right. There's not going to be that much heavy utilization at first, but that certainly opens up the possibility to do so. We can have things available, right, at town for people to use. So I think that would be the biggest thing to, number one, embrace the universal guidelines and use as a reference for indoor activity. Number two, limit it to 50, which sounds like what we're all kind of gravitating to as a max. I think those are the biggest things, frankly. The other issue that I would advocate for is around masking indoors, just knowing there's gonna be a lot of kids that'll be using it. Like that's still the constituency that's not fully vaccinated, won't have an opportunity for a while. And the universal guidelines are, I think it's masking if it's mixed vaccination status indoors. So that would be.
Can I ask you this?
Yep.
Can you write something up with a thought of what you think and
Yeah,
bring it to us, and then we'll go use that as the baseline, maybe the
Sure.
guidance to adopt to?
Peter, I can help you out with that too.
yeah, all right.
And I think the biggest thing also is gonna be, are you wearing a mask while you're participating in the sport? If you're actively on the court or something, say they're playing basketball.
Yep.
Are we gonna require a mask for that, or the people and coaches who can't socially distance, on the sidelines?
Yep.
Those are things we gotta kind of look at.
Because now it's coming down to if you're vaccinated or not. Like now, Massachusetts is opening up their sporting venues to 100%, but they're segregating it. I don't want to get to the point where we're asking.
Oh, yeah, and that's the
show
tough
your
part.
card, but
Yeah.
are we being too stringent?
With the mask indoors?
Well, just with everything, yeah. Sanitation, mask indoors.
Oh,
It's
well, I think it's, we're a small shop, right? So I think the cleaning is a good one. Setting a cap, I think, is reasonable. Like, could we go bigger? We probably could, but I don't think.
start off with
Yeah,
baby steps.
when it comes to the fall and talent's going to be in higher demand, I'm hoping this thing's going to look like a shell of what it is now, and we can all be, and kids will be vaccinated more. So I'm hoping we can ramp up from there. So and we talked about before, maybe a staggered approach, and this is a good kind of first way into that. At least get it open, and then we can.
Yeah, I
build
think
it
we
from
should
there.
shoot for June 8th, which is our next meeting, being open. Like that's our opening date, and we need to have a protocol by then to adopt and just, so this is gonna be our firm date.
Yep. Okay. Like it. Yeah. If you two can work together and get something
Yeah,
together, that'd be
absolutely.
that'd be
Yeah, I'll
awesome.
do a little research on these best practices and do some other research from other towns and see what they're doing. And
Well, wouldn't we want a firm date of June 9th? So we're voting on the protocols June 8th?
right, yeah, June 9th. Yeah.
And you have the link I sent you guys from the state on the universal best practices? I thought I sent it a couple weeks ago. If not, I can resend it.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just resending it, just to make sure.
All right. Any more topics and more discussion on that?
Nope.
All right. Next one is CHS Senior Activity Day, June 8th at Rowan Memorial. I think we're still just waiting on her.
Yeah,
Sure.
I emailed her again and she never wrote back to me. So, I'll reach out once again.
Okay, that'd be great. I think that's the only thing we're waiting on.
Yeah.
That one. And then the other one is Scouts utilizing Talent Hall for meetings. We have not received an official request from that. I believe they approached, was it the Board of Selectmen and the ENT for that, right?
Yes.
Initially?
Yep.
Do you have a contact that we can reach out to get that? Are they still looking to do it? Do you know?
I believe so.
We have not, would it be, was it Jeff?
I think it was Jeff. I think we'd go back to Jeff. If not, we can tie off with Curtis Sampson.
Approach. Trying to recruit Jeff.
Oh, good.
I think it'd be a great addition to the recreation. Okay, so we still need the official facilities request form from them. I'll contact Jeff to see if he can do that to us. And once again, I believe we're all in cohesion that the Scouts have their protocols and everything down that, and they will follow it. So once they get that to us, we can vote on using it. So that's the only other thing is anything else anybody wants to put out there? Hearing none. So then the last will be adjourning. I have a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
All right, so motion by Mr. Ruggles, seconded by Mr. Boshi. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. Ames,
Aye.
Mr. Boshi,
Aye.
Mr. Collins,
Aye.
Mr. Weber.
Aye.
I am also an aye. We are adjourned with 6-0-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, you too.